we talk about connection. We talk about building relationships. What better way than to bring people in person to connect with your mission, to connect with your cause? It doesn't have to be 1,000 people. It can be 50 people. It can be a golf outing. It can be a dinner. It could be anything that you choose. But gathering people together is so impactful. It's celebration. It's cultivation.
Yeah, hey, I know you're a big music guy, and I am too. So, yeah, talk to me about where that comes from and what's on the playlist and all that good stuff.
I appreciate you asking, and so I'd say the answer is it depends upon what kind of date, what time of the day it is, and what kind of day I'm having.
Yeah,
but I definitely use music to set the mood as well as kind of augment the mood for what I'm doing. And so, late at night, kind of 5 o'clock and after, you hear a lot of '90s alternative rock coming out of my office. You hear a lot of Foo Fighters coming out of my office, but during the morning, when I'm just kind of getting into it, you're going to hear a lot of smooth jazz because that really helps me to just kind of like get into the mood and into the mode. I'll tell you, the last concert I just saw was just a couple of weeks ago at a small little venue in town called the Vogue, and it's a band called Wild Rivers. They are phenomenal. Yeah, you should check them out. Okay. So actually, I know the owner of the Vogue, and I had discovered them on Spotify. And I reached out to him and I said, "You have got to find this band routing through Indy, and you've got to sign them up." And he did. They were fantastic, sold out show, just a really, really great time.
Drop the name on me one more time.
Wild Rivers.
Cool.
Yeah,
so that was actually one of my follow-up questions. We're going to talk about music for about a half hour, man.
Yeah, exactly. Well, settle in.
But okay, yeah. So good. One of the best shows you've seen recently. Right?
Yeah. Fantastic. Again, because the other thing, Trevor, is that I'm not a big shed guy anymore, like a stadium guy. I like to get music in a small venue, intimate venue. That's what the Vogue was. I love going to Nashville and just being able to walk in and listen to live music. But it's the parking and all the hassle of getting to the big stadiums is something I'm going to leave to the young folks these days.
I get you.
Yeah.
You've seen some absolute, probably some pretty rockin' shows though. I'm assuming with how much your affinity for music. Yeah. Tell me some of your favorites.
Well, so everybody who joins One Cause, I ask them a bunch of questions, but one of the things that I ask them is who their favorite artist is of all time. And so that really kind of breaks the ice. It gets people thinking about it. And I share that mine is Bruce Springsteen.
Okay. Makes sense.
And again, I grew up with Bruce Springsteen. So my best show is 19th Row at the Uptown Theater in Chicago. It had to be maybe 1978, 1979. It was just phenomenal. And he did probably a 3.5, 4 hour show with an intermission, and it was life-changing. That was the best show I've ever seen.
That sounds like peak Bruce Springsteen too, as far as like time period.
Oh, peak Bruce Springsteen. Yeah, I consider everything after the river to be like new.
So all of it. No, that's fantastic, man. Yeah. I have not seen him. I haven't seen him in concert, but I would definitely like to. It was watching that Defiant Ones documentary, that 4-part documentary with Jimmy Iovine, and his connection to Bruce Springsteen was very interesting, and their early workings together and what have you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just he's just been so influential, and he stood the test of time too. Yeah. And so I love that about him too. He's still relevant today.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, favorite shows. I always, for some reason, I feel like, and I remember it. We were sitting nosebleed in the Oakland Coliseum, but it was the first show I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
So right across the bay from Oakland, and right across the 101 from SFO, from the airport, is where I was born and raised. And the first concert my parents ever took me to was Eric Clapton. Oh. Robert Cray opened for him, and Phil Collins was on the drums, and it was just like, it was so obviously so indelible. But I've seen some hitters since then too. But yeah, that was my first and favorite concert.
Those are guitar virtuosos.
Oh gosh, yeah. I love Eric Clapton. I've been for some reason YouTube just in general, like removing the commercials and hitting up YouTube Music and whatnot. And hearing just like some people's just like they'll be in their kitchen or their living room, put together some deep cuts, and I got turned on to some really cool deep cut Prince stuff I've never even heard before. And I can't stop listening to it, and it's so good. And it's funny you say that because like everyone like there's a lot of like, oh, the greatest guitar player of all time. And someone asked, do you hear about that quote or the interview with Eric Clapton? Someone asked Eric Clapton, he said, what's it like being the greatest guitar player of all time? He said, I don't know, ask Prince.
I have heard that quote before.
Yeah.
And stuff keeps coming out of the estate or the vault for Prince.
Totally.
It's really good stuff. Yeah, really
that's
good
great.
stuff.
All right.
Who's also a great guitar player, but he's underrated for playing guitar is John Mayer. John Mayer.
I knew you were going to say, well, you flash on John Mayer Trio.
Yeah.
Big time, right?
I mean,
people don't get it because they think the pop.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so good.
He's great. Did you watch any of his Dead shows?
No, I haven't seen that.
I guess it was really good. I'm not a Dead purist enthusiast. I don't know much about him. Some folks were like, "Oh my gosh, it can't be. It has to be. Can't be John Mayer." John Mayer. Have you seen his Crossroads music festival? Speaking of Eric Clapton, I mean, just over the top. Yeah, so talented. People don't realize that. It's very true. That's very true. Do you have any other concert plans for the summer?
No, I think that so the Ruoff music. Outdoor venue is the big venue here where the bands come. Mostly country artists are coming through. So I'm maybe considering doing a Chris Stapleton show. I haven't seen him yet, but I think I might just take a pass for the summer and wait for everybody to come back inside to the small venues.
I get you.
How about yourself? Going to how about a festival?
No festivals. I have a 6-year-old, so there's not going to be very many.
No. I don't recognize anybody who's coming to Lollapalooza. So I'm from Chicago.
Yeah, totally.
I don't recognize anybody who's coming to Lollapalooza. That's a typical guy thing to say.
I got you.
But there's another festival called Riot Fest that is offering bands like Blink 182 and Green Day that might see my.
I would see Blink. I think Blink would be fantastic. Green Day, I'm sure would be great. I'm a Blink guy for some reason. Versus if I had to choose, I don't know why I have to compare, but I would absolutely see Blink at a concert or at a festival. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
There's like a 5-day period where Khruangbin, the Black Keys, one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. The Black Keys, I saw them in 2012, blew my doors off. And then Leon Bridges are all in Oregon. So I'm in far Northern California, closer to the Oregon border than I am to the Bay Area for reference. And there's a town, Bend, Oregon, that has a lot of great concerts, great venues. And there's like a 5-day period where all 3 of them are coming through at the end of the month. So might have to hop on that. Yeah.
That's cool.
But, yeah.
Well, I could definitely talk music with you for a while. Yeah.
That was the point, man. That was the point. I'm such a student, is I like saying we're such fundraising enthusiasts. And I've become such a student. And let's get into it. I mean, I've been an observer of what you all do. And I know, you being the leader of the organization. And I've been exposed to a lot of the folks that have been at your company. I had the pleasure of having a couple of your team members on, and they're phenomenal. I just listened 2 weeks ago to the greatest webinar I've ever heard, actually.
Wow.
And I told Sarah that, and we're going to do one in a few weeks, as a matter of fact. And I watched it. Someone was driving, and I was in a longer drive to the airport, listening and watching this webinar and the feedback and the data. And I want to get into that with the studies that you are all doing. But big picture, Steve, something that I've always really, really been enamored by. No one leaves your organization. and I wanted to, I'm very passionate and fascinated with leadership and with growing and sustaining a company and all those things and all these noble enterprises. And of course, helping folks raise money, which is what we do collectively. But one thing I've noticed about your organization, I'd like for you to speak to it, because I do think there's a lot of symmetry between that and keeping organizations intact on the nonprofit side as well. No one leaves your group, and everyone seems very agreeable and very happy, and they're for the cause and doing the work. And it's just something, like I said, it's something that I've noticed from afar, and I've seen it up close at Raise and what have you. But talk to me about that and the culture that you all have built together, and what that means from you as well, in your position being the CEO. And of course, I'll come to an end here briefly. Congratulations, because it's a pretty amazing feat to do that and sustain that for a long period of time. So hats off to you.
Oh, thank you. I'll take the congratulations, but I'll quickly deflect and say it starts and ends with the people, because they truly are just an amazing group of people. And of course, some people do leave from time to time, but man, we have been so blessed to have this core of experienced former professional fundraisers, former professionals like me, completely from the outside of the nonprofit space. We're all gathered together for this common purpose. The common purpose, the common goal is to use all of what we bring to the table to help raise money and help make fundraising a better experience for donors, and help these nonprofits hit their goals when they set them out. And so this is just what unites us. This was what brings us together. And the culture again starts with the people, and it really ends and perpetuates with the people. And so I can take a little bit of credit for trying to assemble people, trying to get people to stick around. We were talking about the windshield, continuing to look out the windshield and make sure that the vision is set, the vision is clear, the vision is appropriate. And then it's all about the execution and making sure that we take care of our customers, making sure that we take care of their supporters, just making sure that we have a great plan going forward. Interesting note to talk about longevity. We offer a 30-day sabbatical for everyone who hits the 10-year mark, and it's been fantastic. And the only thing that we ask is that you make a presentation back to the company of kind of like, what did I learn on my 30-day sabbatical? But there's no limitations to what you can do. And I said, just out of curiosity, how many people out of our 200 people have 10 or more years of
service and time
here? And it was over 20. So we have over 10% of our workforce who's been here for 10 years or more. It's truly phenomenal. And of course, they're the senior leaders of the company. And so to be without one of those senior leaders in the company for 30 days is something that we have to deal with. But it's we're just so committed to our cause. And the other thing, Trevor, that I'll just throw in there, just kind of thinking about it, kind of off the cuff, is I always say that we care. I think just we care more than anybody does. And so we can offer the technology and the solutions and the innovation and the support and service. But truly, at the end of the day, I just feel that we care more than anybody out there.
Yeah, it's palpable when you nail it, you can feel it, right?
Yeah.
Early on, I've been in the fundraising space for quite a few years, and my best friend is my business partner, and we started a family company, and we don't have 200, but we over 20, and I didn't realize at the time when we hired my sister as our first employee, and then his daughter as our second employee, who are still with us. I didn't realize how much that was going to mean to me. The work and the fact that we get to do it with people that we enjoy, and empowering these people. And it's been such an amazing ride, and it still feels like the beginning. It's just too cool. It's just too cool. Double click on that. It's funny. So Steve, I don't want to get over this real quick though. Something that jumped out to me is that 10 years or more service, 20 people, that's 200 years. I mean, it's like
we have 200 years of service.
Come on, man. That's just too cool. I remember texting Dan, and he's like, "Hey man, I got to get back to you. I'm on a sabbatical. I'm like year 13, but they forced me to finally do it because I said no or whatever at 10. So you had to like kick him. I know people like Dan, you have to like, we're very similar. You have to kick him out the door. But I think he told me he was like in a yurt in Maine or something like that.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal what people are doing. I wanted to come back to a point that you made too, is this is part of my why story. This is why I'm here. My career. So I had maybe 30 years before I got here. I've now been the CEO of the company for over 10 years. I still feel a little bit like an outsider. I came to this world with no nonprofit fundraising experience at all. I came from finance and technology and music and entertainment and live event production. And so that is kind of my journey before I got here. But I made a decision to seek mission and meaning and purpose in my career. And that's what brought me to the former BidPal, which became One Cause. That's what brought me here. And that's what I remain committed and dedicated to. And I think everyone else feels the same. Again, whether you came from the nonprofit fundraising professional world, or whether you came from insurance or banking or manufacturing or whatever it is, and you just felt the calling to serve nonprofits in their fundraising needs. That's what drives us all.
I think it's amazing. Yeah, isn't it funny? I would have said, if you would have told me 10 years ago, this is what I would be doing, I would say, oh, far out. How did I get there?
How did I get there? Yeah.
And I'm sure you have a little bit of that yourself with your background and stuff. Yeah. What's the one thing I have met, Steve, and this conversation is no different. I have met so many amazing people in this space by going to conferences, by having the pod. We do a webinar, obviously clients and partners that we get to work with, right? It's interesting. One of the funniest things though that I heard was from a friend who's a LinkedIn expert, but she's a fundraising expert as well. Her name's Michelle Benson, and she's from the UK. And she said, "Why did we let an accountant decide what the whole sector was going to be called? Was going to be called nonprofit when our whole job is to make sure we get money in the door, so we can further the cause and the mission and all these lovely things that we get to do because we're these organizations are the safety net of society. We say,
right? Why do we define ourselves by what we're not?"
Precisely. Yeah, that is just.
I think I'm going to leave that to others to work out.
Yeah, I'm going to keep scratching my head off in the back. Yeah, going, what is going on here? But no, having these conversations I think is really, really fruitful. One thing, and I want you to speak to the nonprofit leaders that are out there. We talk about, hey, keeping our team intact, burnout. These are not buzz terms. These are real things that we hear every time we do a Q&A or a panel or talk. It's like, how do I keep the people that are, oh my gosh, they're so vital to our organization? That could even be supporters as well. And it's a real exercise in people. And I believe among so many other things, it's a real exercise in relationships and the strength of those relationships, and getting the most out of people, and pulling in the same direction and having the focus being aligned and all these things. And talk to me about that from a leadership perspective and how that could, not only from your experience, but how that could lend itself to, what folks are facing in the nonprofit world.
Yeah. So what I think that I would do with that is kind of reference back to the book, to Fearless.
Yeah.
And so included in Fearless is the concept of communication, but it's really embedded into why Fearless even exists to begin with. So when I started to write Fearless, I didn't know that I was writing Fearless. I didn't do it consciously. I sat down to write a letter to the company every week, starting in the first week of April in 2020 during the pandemic. And so my advice to leaders, my advice to anyone is to engage in frequent, clear, concise, transparent communication, and to make sure that you don't have people out there wondering what's going on, because they in the absence of information, the void will be filled by something. And so let's not let that void happen. And so I set out to communicate to my team through the pandemic how we were going to get through to the other side of it every week. And what happened after that was, after a year and a half or 2 years, there was a lot of content that the marketing team came to me and said, I think there's probably a book here because there's some really good stuff in here. But again, it was just part of being open and communicating. And then through that being authentic and showing that you're vulnerable and all of the things that are needed in a time of crisis, which, I think that there are some people who might argue that we are back in a time of crisis. And I would say that last month when we were at AFP Icon doing the things that you said, going in and just meeting with people, and it definitely feels like, a high school reunion when you're just seeing everybody you haven't seen in a long time. But I would say that I haven't for a long time heard people referencing the pandemic as much as I heard them last month at AFP Icon, because I think people are feeling we're in another situation where we have to do things that are different. We're in a period of time where we're coming under pressure, and that pressure is different than the pandemic. The pressure is coming from rules and regulations in the government, and the pressure is coming from the stock market and economic concerns.
Uncertainty,
And
just in general.
the great uncertainty, as I'm starting to call it in my letters to my team. And how do we deal with that? And so what I say is, dust off your COVID playbook a little bit, because back then, 5 years ago, we were, what were we saying? Nobody's written the playbook for this. Okay, now we've got it, and now we've written up the playbook, and it says, don't pull back, push forward, don't be shy, be assertive. Make the ask, continue to move forward. Yes, people are under pressure. Yes, people are feeling it, but now more than ever, we need the supporters and donors to support our nonprofits, and we One Cause and technology providers who are supporting the ecosystem. We need to be there for our customers, for everyone in the ecosystem, to support them again, now more than ever.
I agree. Yeah. I think I love what you said about in the absence of information, because I say the worst thing in customer service is silence.
Yeah. The void will be filled.
Yeah, the void will be filled. And I like to, and especially in a time when folks are so over-indexed, I like to say, there's so much coming at them, and people don't do well with. I think it's the greatest time ever to be alive, Steve. I'm an optimist, but it's also, there's the opportunity and this communication piece and the ability to do these things. Lead me to believe it's the greatest time ever to be alive, because there's such a tremendous opportunity. However, it is a very uncertain period at a time when, and I'm not being judgmental or degrading folks, at a time when I actually think people don't handle uncertainty very well. It's just, that's just how we're built right now. We're just not equipped, because this time has never been seen before, similar to 2020, right? I mean,
we crave certainty, then we get bored and we crave uncertainty, but we crave certainty. We seek for it. I wanted to add another thing that you made me think about, though. We also owe it to ourselves and others to seek more data, to not be committed to one source of data. Yes. And because then all of a sudden we've got the echo chamber that we live in, and we owe it to seek other sources of data, and then analyze that and evaluate it and make decisions on our own, and not let ourselves be told what to do by someone else. There's a quote. It's not coming to me, so I'm not going to say it. But there was a quote that I used in the book that was what was happening during the pandemic too. There were people who thought that they were so authoritative, but the answer is, we don't know. That's what the real answer is. We don't know, and that's a big thing of what I talk about. It's a big belief that I have, is what we need to do is we need to focus on what we can control and not what is outside of our control. And what we can control is how we react and respond to the situation. I couldn't control COVID. I can't control what's happening with the administration. I can't control what's happening with the uncertainty, but I can control how I react and respond to that. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that we can do, is take control of our actions.
83% of you watching this show right now have not hit the subscribe button to the Hey Nonprofits YouTube channel. Do us a favor, it'd mean the world to me and the Hey Nonprofits team. Just hit the subscribe button and you'll stay up to date with every new show, every new video that we pump out. We're going to keep pumping out shows with the greatest minds in fundraising. Please do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. Now back to the episode. There's such a lovely opportunity to communicate with supporters and donors and collaborate with other folks in the space, right? I've never seen anything like it in my tenure. Being involved in the space for almost a decade now. It is a beautiful time to collaborate. It does take courage. I know that is a loose term, but it does take courage and encouragement for us to get off the couch, so to speak, right? And to communicate, and hey, it might even feel like over communication and what have you.
No such thing.
Right? I mean, I don't think so. I don't think, and you prove that. I'm holding up the book. I mean, you prove that with the book. Your marketing team is phenomenal for thinking there was something there. But and like you said, the impetus was, was a constant communication with your team during a very uncertain time. So folks could take a page out of that. And the flip side of that, donors, supporters, stakeholders, investors. We use all these monikers just to describe people that invest in organizations. They are craving that communication. As a matter of fact, it's working better than any time in history. And for some weird reason, folks have apprehension about it.
Yeah.
What do you think that is? I have my own theory about it, Steve, or I have my own antidote for that trepidation. But what do you think that is about folks just not wanting to communicate? They don't know what to say, or
it's such a great question. And I almost knee jerk said something, but I'm just going to say it even with thought now. Yeah. And that is common sense. Mm-hmm. And so, I was, again, just thinking about AFPI kind of a few weeks ago, mm-hmm. and sitting in sessions or talking to people. Still today, we have people talking about not getting or sending thank yous, about not getting or sending impact letters and communicating and connecting with the mission. These are basic blocking and tackling that we should just know to do, but somehow we forget to do it, or somehow it becomes less important. And it really just feels like common sense. Let's thank people for their generosity. Let's communicate to them the impact that $10, that $100, or that $1,000 has had, and let's reconnect with the mission, because that keeps them coming back for more. Yeah. I was listening to the Fundraising Effectiveness Project data, and the recent data, and the numbers haven't changed dramatically, but first year donor retention is 19%, and that's not churn. That's retention, first year donor retention. So 1 in 5 people will give again next year. 4 in 5 people will not. And I run a B2B SaaS company. If you have 19% churn, you're not doing well. But if you had 19% retention, you're out of business.
I say you're really not doing well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Business.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out, how can we, there's so much room there to grow and improve. 19% retention, thanking, impact letters, connecting with the mission, just making sure that you're facilitating that donor journey after the first gift. Yeah. And with technology now, to your point about we're living in these amazing golden age, now we have the way to reach them, to customize and personalize our responses and returns. We have so many mechanisms that we can use to go and embrace those donors and keep them in the fold and convert them into recurring donors and get them to engage with the nonprofit. It just feels like, again, we are living in this beautiful time of technology and innovation, but also personalization that I really feel that there's a tremendous amount of greatness that's going to come from the next decade because of all the tools that are available to us to do that.
I couldn't agree more. There's so much to unpack, right?
I know.
Yeah, but I mean that in the best way, in the most glass half full way. We've said for a very long time, if you don't know what to say thank you. And it sounds like you ascribe to the same idea, the same
That's
approach.
A great point. Yeah.
It just sounds, it's so simple. And it works tremendously in your personal life too. You said common sense. Hey, right. You don't know what to say. I said something really cheeky on a pod a couple of weeks ago. I was like, hey, if you haven't talked to your spouse in a couple of weeks or a couple of days, why don't you start with saying thank you when they do something nice? Why don't we just start there? You know what I mean? I promise you, it's a good way to get the ball rolling, so to speak.
Express some gratitude. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought of this thing. I put it in my notes in like 2017. I was like, whoa, this is really cool. Like, let's see how far this goes. It's working. And it was, we're personal, we're personal, we're genuine, and we're grateful. And that's not my own IP. I just put a bunch of stuff in a list, right? But it still works to this day. And it seems like the organizations that are doing a great job are the ones that have their own focus and way to go about that, from a process perspective. It needs to be processed. That's the beautiful piece of it, right? There needs to be planned gratitude. It needs to be a process of what you do. Yeah.
It does. And for companies like One Cause, we have to be able to figure out how we support that at scale, because you can't, you can't you can't do all of these things from a white glove perspective, one-to-one, because I mean we have 7,000 customers, all of whom have thousands and thousands of donors and supporters, and so you have to be able to figure out a way to do all the things that you want to do at scale.
Yeah, the ability to do that at scale is there. That's the cool part, right? That's the whole point. So no reason, once again, full circle, not to get off the couch, so to speak. It does take a little bit of courage and some encouragement. Speaking of some of the data, and you just 7,000 customers and probably 10,000 quote unquote events, and we're in the event space. We don't talk a lot about what we do, as you can tell. We don't talk a lot about what we do, but we are going to be 2,000 events this year, and a lot of great data coming out of the event and auction space and whatnot. And I know you've been getting the studies. Of course, you're well equipped with some of that data. I'm very encouraged with what your team's been sharing about the community side of wanting to be at an event in person, giving in person, the amount of money that folks are giving on average in person. Your sample size was like 1,000 events. I remember from talking to your team. I'm just like,
and it's over $500.
Yes, let's keep talking about. Yes, this is good. You know what I mean? And it's not self-promoting. And I just think there's just so much that folks can take from gathering in groups. It doesn't have to be. It's so funny because you talked about big stadium events and like the intimate space for concerts and listening to music. People are craving that. A psychology dictates that. You could tell I'm long-winded, Steve. I'm sorry, but psychology dictates that when you take something away from people, they're going to crave for it even more.
Right.
And that's why this in person and all of these opportunities to get folks together, get your supporters together, get new folks, expose your organization. I mean, I'm just, as you can tell, just tickled with the data, and because we're seeing it firsthand too. But I'm sure you're enthralled with the whole thing as well, and very enthusiastic about it.
So thank you for mentioning some of those points, because they're super important.
Yeah.
And we talk about community. We talk about connection. We talk about building relationships. And in what better way, again, not to be, what better way than to bring people in person to connect with your mission, to connect with your cause. And what better way? And of course, it's about fundraising, but it's not just about fundraising. So it's fundraising and so it's celebration, it's cultivation, it's education. So you may be my guest at a gala. You may have never heard of the cause. And I have heard these stories that someone attended a gala as a guest. They absolutely were enamored with the cause. 5 years later, they're chair of the next gala committee because they just learned about it. They were educated and connected with what was happening. And, that time for, if you've seen the data, you also know that attendees were asked, well, what was the most rewarding part of the experience? And it was the testimonial. It wasn't the silent auction, the live auction, the raffle, the dinner, the open bar. It was the testimonial. And again, what better way to connect with hundreds or 1,000 gathered supporters than to have a testimonial, to have someone who's been impacted by the cause that you serve and basically say that, this is how I was helped through this process. And that's the gala experience. But to your other point, it doesn't have to be 1,000 people. It can be 50 people. It can be a golf outing. It can be a dinner. It could be anything that you choose. But gathering people together is so impactful. And you're right. The data is just so encouraging. Back to my 19% retention. 19% retention. 49% of our surveyed attendees said they gave more. Over I think 60% or 83% said they were going to likely to become an annual donor.
Yeah.
And so it's just these data points that are so positive and so encouraging about that in-person experience. And I just really think that can be part of. It's never the exclusive. It always needs to be a part of a comprehensive, diversified fundraising strategy. But it is something that's important to be part of a strategy. And that's what I hope that we're communicating to whoever reads it.
I think it's amazing. Yeah, I'm glad y'all putting that information out. Hey, we would have lived with it if it was the opposite, but we don't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Couple things. You mentioned those stats. It was interesting. I had a guest on recently, and they said a first-time donor, if they get a phone call, a thank you from the staff, the likelihood they'll give again is 40%. If a first-time donor gets a call from a board member, the likelihood that they'll give again is 400%.
Interesting.
So the power, I don't know where she based that on. She seems very trustworthy. I like her a lot. She's got the greatest podcast that I've heard in fundraising, and just Julie Ordonez. I'll give credit where credit's due. She said, and I was like, okay, yeah. The power of thank you and just connection and all those things. What's funny? You said this a few times, Steve, when you were just giving some feedback about the study and whatnot. And it was all really, really thoughtful. You said "and" a lot. Yeah. You said community and. You said golf tournament and. I don't know. Are you a Gary Vee fan? You know who Gary Vee is?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why. I love Gary. I like Gary Vee so much. Very positive. And he's like, so many people are caught up in or, and it's and. And
if you say or around one cause, you're gonna get called on it. That's why
gotcha.
That is why I am very deliberate in that. Is I will get looks from, if I say or, I will get looks from my team.
Yeah.
How about let's try and, Steve? And so we just call each other on it all the time. And so that's what's coming through. It's just, it is and. It's yes and.
Gosh. Yeah, because you were talking about back in 2020, you said, well, we've, a lot of people were like, we don't have a playbook for this. And how many times have you heard and seen, well, we've always done it this way?
Yeah, right.
Stuff like that, right? And it's such a beautiful time if you can adopt and not or. It's just such a perfect time for fundraising, for B2B companies like us and you and just life in general. This is not an or exercise.
No, it's so appropriate because it really can't be an or. It has to be an and.
Yeah. It's awesome. There's too many opportunities. And the audience is too darn big. Talk to me. I told you at the onset, we met briefly, you and I, at Raise in 2019. It was one of the greatest conferences I've been to in the space. It continues to be. We were involved after that as well. We're coming back in 2025. Yeah. In September, we'll be in San Antonio with you all. We'll be there in force. Talk to me about, and you mentioned AFB Icon. Sounds like a great conference. I haven't been to that one yet. Talk to me about Raise. And talk to the audience about Raise and what it's meant to you all as an organization. Everyone's bought in. It's such an interesting testimony to what you've built from a culture perspective because you feel it right at the event and before, actually, and after. Talk about building one of the, pardon me for, one of the, most kick-ass conferences in the space and what that feels like and where you all have come from and hits and misses or whatever you're willing to share about Raise. Yeah.
First of all, thank you for putting in the Raise plug so I didn't have to. I appreciate it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, it's part of your all's dossier. It had to come in. Yeah.
So I will. I don't know if I'm going to tell a story that I'm not sure has even been told anywhere. Other
Suitable
than
for this pod.
You have an exclusive. You have an exclusive. Right. So the first Raise was in 2017, and I will credit Carrie Wozniak, our Chief Marketing Officer, as being the brainchild behind Raise. And Raise is and has been intended to be a conference for fundraising professionals. It is not a one-cause user conference. It is a satisfying a need in the marketplace, an unmet need in the marketplace for fundraising professionals to come together and talk about best practices, make connections, learn from each other. Basically, we want to try and get out of the way as much as possible, tee up as many experts as we can, put them in the same room with people together and see what happens. So she probably pitched this to me 2 years before 2017. And I kept saying, no, I don't get it. It's not in the budget. And she just said, we're just going to do it. And so they just did it. And we just did it in 2017. It got in and it was maybe 20 or 30 people in this small little space in Washington, D.C. We had no budget for it. And on the last day, the last session, there were some gathered fundraising professionals, like Lynn Page and the expert opinions and advice that was being discussed in front of young fundraisers. I'm giving myself a chill just thinking about it. I mean, I turned to Carrie and I said, okay, I get it. Because we were just doing this little kind of fireside chat where this amazing wisdom was coming through from this panel. And people were just writing feverishly. And I said, we have to keep doing this. This has to become the first raise, and we just have to keep doing it. And so now 2025, I guess will be 8-ish, or maybe it'll be our 9th, depending upon how you count. And I can't imagine us not doing it. And it now has grown to this 700 person. Now we're going to be on 4 tracks in San Antonio. We did 2 years in Nashville. It was amazing. We were from the CMA Theater at the Country Music Hall of Fame. It was just this amazing venue, an amazing couple of days of people just coming together, learning and sharing from each other. Again, we try and get out of the way as much as possible so that people can just connect and learn and grow. But it's just been fantastic. And again, it's not a one cause user conference. It's for event fundraising folks to come together and learn.
So good. Sounds like it's a child now, or maybe like it's got its own years as far like it's a 30-year-old now.
it is a 30-year-old, but it is near and dear to our hearts.
Yeah.
It is near and dear to our heart.
It's such a living, breathing thing now, and it's really amazing. So yeah, hats off to Carrie for coming up with the idea, and for y'all for executing it year in and year out. I didn't know what to expect when we came the first time. It was a breath of fresh air, and because I remember saying this to Diana, like on camera or something. I was like, I had a feeling that there was going to be like a lot of oxygen, in this room. And there was. And so I mean that because, just I know what goes into it. I have a pretty decent idea what goes into an undertaking like that. And to create a living, breathing thing year in and year out, that's that cool, that offers that much to event fundraising professionals is truly remarkable. So, hats off to you and your team as well.
Thank you. September 8th and 9th.
Yeah.
September 8th and 9th, San Antonio. And I'll also say this, you mentioned events.
Yeah.
The first year that I was here as CEO, we supported 1,400 events and helped raise about $100 million. Last year, we helped support 16,000 events and helped raise $1.6 billion.
Wow.
So that has been what has happened in that 10-year period of time from 2015 to this year. And I'd say that, that event fundraising type of experience has helped us to be able to execute an event at that size and scale. And so if you thought 2019 was great, this year, 2025 will be off the charts. It'll be phenomenal.
Awesome. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We'll definitely put that in the show notes, links to get raise tickets and all that good stuff. And no question at all, it'll be in there. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. I'll be doing some podcasts with your team, as a matter of fact. So
that's great. That's good stuff.
Looking forward to that. Get my big old head, get my big dome in the studio there. And it'll be fun, man. I'm looking.
But it's perfect because we want the voices of the community. We don't necessarily need to be the voice. We want to be a voice, but we want everyone's voice to be represented.
I hear you, man. That's nice. A lovely invitation. Looking forward to it. And but y'all do a great job on your end too. The whole team on the webinars and the podcast. I think you have one coming up this week, as a matter of fact. But that we'll be watching. What was my follow up? I had a follow up, Steve. Sorry, that's the first time I went blank in the whole episode. But what was I going to say? You laid out some really cool stats just now about how far y'all have come in 10 years. Yeah. And it's very interesting when you're leading a B2B company or you're leading a nonprofit. There's a lot of symmetry, as we've mentioned on the episode as well. We have a saying where we go slow to go fast. Mm-hmm. And you have to start somewhere. So, you didn't get to $1.6 billion raised and this many, 17,000 events in 10 years by going fast, throttle to the floor, year one, 10 years ago when you got involved.
Right.
Talk about just tempering patience with expectation, or what do you tell yourself and what do you tell your team? Not because you want to pull up on the reins. It takes, to counter someone that's pulling up on the reins, it takes like 4 people to pull the other direction, right? Disparately. So you all want to be going the same direction, but how do you lay that expectation and to keep, do you celebrate the wins as they come in? Like, what are things like that you could tell the audience that are in that leadership or development role that could help them with just like, okay, we're starting here and this is where we will probably end up. Yeah.
Sure. Well, the first thing that I thought of when you were asking that question was, we made our share of mistakes.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's zigging.
We break some windows, as we like to say.
Zigging and zagging upward to the right, but it is not a complete linear line up and to the right. That is for sure. There's a lot of missteps, a lot of mistakes, and I would say this: we really take it upon ourselves. We really consider it to be a privilege and an honor to be where we are today, serving nonprofits. And so that has always been the job one. That has always been the primary focus of the company. And we also believe that as we do that, we will continue to grow and thrive as a business. But the first and foremost is to take care of our customers, or to serve our customers, as I say. So I am a fan of servant leadership. I serve as the CEO of One Cause, and together we serve the needs of our nonprofits and the causes that they champion. And so that is the driving force behind everything that we do, is living in service. And so we believe that if we just look at some of the things that we're doing today with innovation, we believe that nonprofits should not be constrained with trailing edge technology. And I came from the technology world. I was head of corporate development for Gateway, the computer company, back in the mid-late 90s. And so we were always about pushing the front edge of technology and innovation. And, historically, the nonprofit world has been okay being a little bit trailing edge, and we don't think that that's right. And so and I think there's a lot of that coming out of the pandemic that we expect, meaning me as a donor, you as a donor and a supporter, a consumer-like experience when you're interfacing with a nonprofit donation site. And so we want to bring that to the nonprofit world as well. So we want to help lead in innovation and technology and things like, I'm really, really excited about artificial intelligence, because we're already incorporating that into our product platform. We're already building in recommendation engines for supporters. We're already building in the ability to write item descriptions for auctions. We're already building in a readiness check for as your event date is coming, based on the experience that One Cause has. And so now it's one thing to say we've helped support 60,000 fundraising events and help raise $8 billion over the course of 15 years. But now what we're able to do, Trevor, is incorporate that into the product using a small language model, or not a large language model, but a model that's based on usage within the One Cause platform, and using all of that history to basically create then an artificial intelligence engine to assist our customers and their supporters in maximizing fundraising results. So we're able to do that now, where that was elusive to us 5 years ago because we didn't have the tools to be able to do that. So again, it's part of using the technology that's available at the time, but also pushing and driving innovation so that we make sure that we bring the latest and greatest to our nonprofit customers and the supporters that they serve.
I love it. I love all those tools. A lot of fun tech coming out right now for events.
Fun tech.
Fun, right? Yeah. We're pretty enamored with it. The first partner of ours that said, "Hey, we found you on ChatGPT." I was like, "Okay,
Yep,
we're on to something. This is good. Let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes. It's not going anywhere." Another one of those. Hey, there's a theme with this conversation. I love it because very glass half full, but it's an and piece. Just another piece, just to add to the fundraising strategy equation, if you will. I was going to say puzzle. It's been really, really awesome spending this time with you. I want to be polite with yours. I ask, and I'm looking forward to doing it again. This is also your invite to come back, Steve. So I'd love
My
to have
pleasure.
you back. Yeah, fun. I ask every guest a question at some point in the episode, and it's based on an agreed premise that fundraising is hard, fundraising is difficult, and the way I like to pose that is fundraising is difficult. Don't make it more difficult by doing what?
Overthinking.
Embellish.
And so earlier, I said, let's just employ some common sense. And I think that too often we're getting bogged down by the day's headlines, the day's statistics. Some of the naysayers of it's kind of easy to print negative stuff, but right. And so let's not overreact to the day's headlines and the negativity. Let's take a moment. Let's not overthink. Let's apply some common sense and judgment. And then let's also look at history for a guide. And what I like to do, anytime anyone starts to get really worried about where we are as an industry, I cite the Giving USA, the 40-year track of generosity in the United States. And it tracks very closely to the S&P 500. And so you look at it and you say, and you can see where the recessions are. You can see where the economic downturns are. And what I say is that our industry is not recession resistant, but it is recession resilient. And I think that if we look to the past to guide the future, we can take a breath, we can relax, not overthink, apply some common sense and judgment, and keep moving forward. And we will find a way to get through whatever is in our way.
It's well put. Good one. I love that. I anticipate the answers to that question every episode. It's really good. Well said, my friend. That was awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks for having
some common sense and communication. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just said thanks for having me. I really appreciate being here. Really appreciate being able to share the viewpoint of One Cause, the viewpoint of myself, and just some of the things that we've had to go through over the last 10 years of my stint as the CEO. But we've been at this for 15 years, and we're just honored and grateful to be where we are. To continue to serve the community.
That's awesome. Well, 15 years is a long time in this space. I'll tell you what.
It is a long time. But here's the thing, Trevor. We're going down another path, but the world that we live in, we're helping to address forever needs. Yeah. This is 15 years is a small amount of time for addressing cancer and homelessness and hunger and all of the things that sustainability, all of the things that the nonprofits that we serve champion those causes. And so I see from a legacy perspective, One Cause has to figure out a way to outlive me, to outlive the next generation of my team, to continue on to help support and serve the needs of the community, because those needs are so great. And unfortunately, those needs are going to be around for a long, long time.
Yeah. Safety net of society. We're helping folks raise money. Yeah. Hey, if 15 years is a long time in our space, I'm very encouraged.
Yes.
So here's to the next 15.